And joining us next on the program, joining us now, is the West Bloomfield High School baseball coach, Josh Birnberg. Josh, welcome to the MegaCast.
Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
So how are you, Josh? How's your family? How are your athletes?
We're doing well. Obviously, it's a tough time for everyone. And my heart breaks for the class of 2020 right now because they're really going through it, especially in the sports world and missing graduation. So I think everyone's just hanging in there as best as they can right now.
So you have to feel for the seniors on your team and in other spring sports and even with some of the winter sports that lost their season. What do you have to say about, or anything special you have to say about some of the seniors on your team that you'd like to speak about, seeing that they didn't get this last season, they didn't get their last little bits of glory in their high school sport?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, my heart breaks for them. For a lot of kids, their senior season is one that they're never going to forget. We had 8 seniors on our baseball team this year, which is a lot. They had a lot to prove this year. We had a really good senior class with a lot of senior leadership, and they were ready to go out and play and compete and make, some final memories for their high school career and their baseball career. We only have one kid that's going off to play in college, so 7 of them, it was going to be their last time ever playing baseball. We worked really hard in the off season to prepare to get ready for the season, and for it to get taken away from them, it hurts. It hurts for everyone involved.
So we talked earlier this week with Eric Pierce, the athletic director at West Bloomfield High School. He mentioned that that the lost seasons may impact how some of these players' collegiate aspirations may be affected. You said 8 seniors on your team, only one had a commitment to a college program. Any other of the guys that may have, if this season went on, had potentially had a chance of picking up a college offer or a walk-on chance that and how do you maybe mitigate that and continue the communication between your players, between college coaches, and still maybe move that process along if it's at all possible?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And thankfully for our one kid that was already committed to play, his name is John Beal. I'm glad that he got his commitment before the season started, just in case, he was impacted by this. But of the other 7 seniors that we had, one is going to play football at the next level. So that's awesome. And one is going to play hockey. For the rest of the guys, I think a lot of them are already set on where they're going to school. We had a lot of really bright kids that are continuing their academic careers at some really nice schools. And then, you never know what the senior season is going to bring. And I think that's one of the cool things about baseball is a lot of kids come up with some really good senior seasons and end up getting looked at by schools that maybe they didn't think they were going to be looked at until that season takes place. So it's hard to say what would have happened. We could have had some kids that would have had some really big years that could have got some more college attention. But any of those kids that have any aspirations of possibly playing at the next level, they know I'm here to help them in any way they need. I can reach out to a bunch of schools and a bunch of connections I have. But I think one of the good things we have, at least, is I think everyone's kind of set in what they're doing next year. So as far as that goes, I don't think anyone was negatively impacted in that way, which is a good thing. But if anyone has some late aspirations of wanting to give baseball a shot in college that they didn't think they might have had before this got canceled, they know I'm here to help them in any way they need.
Josh Birnberg, West Bloomfield High School varsity baseball coach. Thank you so much, for joining us today. Erica Jones here, and I'm, wondering, we talk a lot about the seniors and how hard this is for them, but, a lot of the team also isn't seniors, and I don't think we should discredit them. So what are you doing to, maintain your players who do have seasons ahead of them? Because, I'm sure you want them to come back next year and be just as good as they were. So how are you keeping in touch with them at home and trying to make sure they stay on top of their game so they are prepared for when they can, get back in the game?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a great question. Obviously, with the 2020 class, our heart breaks for them, but, we have a bunch of other kids that are missing out on a season as well. You only have 4 years in high school to play, and everyone's missing out on this 1 year, which is huge. I think one of the cool things that baseball has is that there's kind of 2 seasons. So everyone plays their high school season in the spring, and then, probably 90 to 99% of our kids are also on a travel baseball team that competes in the summer. So obviously everyone's, holding their breath, hoping that we can get some games in the summer and that season takes place. There's a lot of competitive baseball that gets played during the summer. And a lot of those coaches are trying to trying to do everything they can to make sure that season happens. Obviously, it's not really in our hands right now, but we're hoping that at some point it's going to be safe to play. And I just, stay in constant communication, with our guys. I had one group chat with just the seniors in it, one group chat with the whole team, and then one group chat with all the underclassmen. So obviously a tough time right now for everybody, but like you said, I got these underclassmen that are all coming back next year, and a lot of young guys that are going to have to contribute at the varsity level. So just kind of making sure that everyone's head, is on straight and everyone's hanging in there through this tough time and getting in as much work as possible on their own with the restrictions we have and what's actually available. Just hoping everyone makes the best of what they can at home and get as much work in as possible.
Josh Birnberg, the West Bloomfield High School baseball coach. You're an alum. You're a former baseball player as well on this team, and in a situation, so you know the mindset of a high school baseball player. You know what they're going through, and you know what you can kind of imagine what they're thinking in this kind of a situation and going forward. So coming up next season, the next time that they take the diamond, next time they go on another field for another sport or a court, whatever it may be, do you see high school sports coming back even more competitive than it's ever been before?
I do. And I think that, big reason why is, you don't appreciate something, until it's gone. And I think everyone's going to have a bigger appreciation now for athletics, high school athletics, the high school experience. I think everyone realizes now how fast something can be taken away from you. So I think everyone will be much more appreciative of sports when it does come back, when it's safe to return. And I think that in turn that it'll make everything more competitive. I think everyone's just going to take it more seriously and be grateful for the opportunity they have to compete, just because, like we saw, it can be taken away from you so fast. So to answer your question, I think sports will be back better than ever. I think high school sports will be back better than ever and more competitive than ever.
And, Josh, because you are young still and it hasn't been that long since you've graduated, your players know that it wasn't too long ago that you were on the West Bloomfield varsity baseball team. Do you think that they feel more comfortable confiding in you and, just reaching out about how they feel and what they're going through than they would be someone who was a little more far removed from the position that they're in right now?
It's a good question. I guess it's possible. I got a balance kind of for me. The one thing that's tough is because I am younger, I don't want to cross the line between being, friends with the players, because I am their coach at the end of the day. But I think that, as a player, it's easier to confide in someone that is younger, just because, like you said, it wasn't too long ago that I was in their shoes. So, through a time like this is one thing, but just in general, like when things were back normal, I had a lot of really good conversations with the kids all the time about stuff maybe that they wouldn't open up to with maybe someone a little bit older, just because, like you said, I wasn't in their shoes too long ago. So I kind of know what they're going through, not only on the field, but off the field, as a high school student, some of the challenges that they go with that. So I think that the kids do find it easier maybe to come talk to me a little bit. At least I would hope so. And that's kind of one of the goals I have is to make sure that they can always come talk to me about anything. It's not just baseball. They can talk to me about other sports, problems they got going on. And I'll be there to help them in any way I can.
Josh Birnberg, West Bloomfield High School baseball coach, joining us on the MegaCast on our family of stations. So Major League Baseball has begun negotiations for potential return late in July. It'd be a shortened season. It'd be a little bit different, more different playoff system, different revenue sharing, all of that. It's nothing official yet, but it's in the works. Have you heard anything either from your athletic director, from the MHSAA, from other baseball coaches about the potential for next season? Is there a chance that maybe baseball and softball and other outdoor sports like that could be mixed into fall? Have you heard anything on that note?
You know what? I haven't heard anything about it. Obviously, you hear a bunch of rumors. You don't really know what's true and what's not. I've seen the possibility of that football might be moved to the spring if it's not safe to compete in the fall. So obviously that would have a direct impact on baseball just because we got a lot of, dual sport athletes that play both football and baseball. So, I don't really know. I'm just hoping that by the time next spring rolls around, we're able to have a full season safely and to be able to compete. So haven't heard anything yet. I'm sure they're going to have to make some decisions soon as far as football goes. And I think the decision as far as football goes will directly impact the rest of the sports, especially in the spring. So hopefully we'll get a decision soon and see what happens.
So baseball, just in just a couple more minutes before we have to let you go, Josh Birnberg, head coach of the West Bloomfield high school baseball team. Baseball's not as much of a contact sport as something like football or basketball or something like lacrosse even. So do you believe that baseball, in the coming months as things progress, and maybe we're not fully out of the woods with this crisis at that time, even in the fall, but with baseball being less of a contact sport, do you think that makes it more opportune to be something that could be played potentially in the fall?
I'd like to hope so. But, I've thought about that myself. But, my mind always takes me to, there's a lot of things that happen on the baseball field that aren't close contact. You got the umpire right on top of the catcher and the hitter. When a runner's on first base, you got the first baseman holding the runner on. You got all the kids in the dugout next to each other. So, it's tough, and I want to be as positive as possible about it. But when we do return, when it's safe, you want to make sure that the kids are as safe as possible. And although kids might not be as impacted by this as older people, you got kids going home to their parents. You got older umpires out there, older coaches. So, you got to keep in mind of everyone that could possibly be impacted by this and negatively affected. So, it's kind of a tough thing, and we're kind of just waiting for the go ahead on when it's safe to return.
Josh Birnberg, coach of the West Bloomfield High School baseball team. Anything else you'd like to say? Anything else we haven't touched on that you'd like to speak of?
No, you guys asked some great questions. I really appreciate you having me on, and I hope to be on again some point in the future.
Wonderful. Josh Birnberg, the West Bloomfield High School baseball coach, with us on the MegaCast.